Cool. Well, we've had one like, but nobody watching so far. Hello, hello. Who has joined? Say hello if you're here. Right, I'm making an Instagram story. Try and get some people on. I'm live right now. Just dropped down to 0 viewers. Come on. Who's going to join me on YouTube right now? Link in the bio. Not going to start any topics until people join. Hey, Albert, how's it going? You're the first one to turn up. Good question. Where is everyone? I had, who was it? James Penny. He expressed interest in joining tonight, but has yet to actually do it. Supposedly I've got 2 people watching. So who's the second person? G'day Chris and g'day Applehead. It's like we've got 3 people, even though my counter, it's just updated to 3. Awesome. Oh, we've got 4 people. 4 people now. Awesome. Well, welcome to tonight's live stream. I will kick things off with, of course, general channel updates. Video is ready. It is scheduled for tomorrow. Queensland by Rail Part 2, sorry. Part 2 is going to be released tomorrow night. Good to see, Applehead, that you loved the steam rail video. I assume that you're just referring to the Heritage Train Slow TV video that I made. While that was mostly steam rail tours, it was not only steam rail tours. Good to hear. Hope everyone enjoyed part 1 of the Queensland series. That seemed to get a good response. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the trip and making the video. Part 2 is going to be all about Gold Coast. I took a trip down to Gold Coast and yeah. And then after Gold Coast, pretty much a week from now is going to be part 3, which is going to be the Westlander. That should be a good one. I think you'll all love the Westlander. All you trading fans. And can I think of anything else? I don't know how many parts there's going to be to the Queensland series, because I'm just, you know, doing it as I go and making parts wherever parts fit. And yeah, if it spans over a couple of days worth of travel, then cool. But generally, each train is going to be one part. G'day to Struncheon side, something like that. Glad you could join us. We've just been discussing how Queensland Part 2 is coming out tomorrow night, Part 3 in a week's time, and subsequent parts after that. Who knows how many parts there's going to be. But the main topic of this live stream, what is in my bag and when should I upgrade? Well, give me a sec, I'll be back. Right, this is the first thing that I'm going to explain. Let's get this off. What's in my bag, Fairfax edition? Yeah, that was a great video. So, it's I know it's inverted on the camera, but you can sort of make out that this is a Canon 70D. It's a pretty standard DSLR. Don't have a battery in it at the moment. The battery's charging. Little tip. Whenever I'm charging the battery, I leave the battery door open. Whenever I've taken the SD card out, I leave the SD card door open and I don't shut them until whatever has come out of there goes back in. So that way I make sure that I'm never left without a battery or without an SD card. It's a very obvious warning sign. So yeah. All right, mate, you're watching Between Taxi Jobs. No worries. This camera is about 5 years old. And it's been with me pretty much my entire serious photography career. I've been taking photography seriously for about the past 6-ish years. And so, yeah, I had a year on a smaller camera and then 5 years on this camera. The main lens I use is a Canon 10 to 18mm lens. However, that wasn't the first lens I bought. The first lens I bought was this thing. This is an 18 to 135mm lens. And so for those of you who don't really understand camera talk, this is reasonably wide angle, sort of a similar field of view to what you're seeing at the moment on the wide end. So that's 18. And it can zoom in all the way to 135. Don't confuse that. That's not 135 times like X, which you might see on smaller cameras and stuff. The X, it sort of doesn't really make sense. So we do with millimeters. It makes somewhat sense. I won't go into where you get the numbers from. But yeah, this was a very good lens. This was the lens which I purchased with my camera. And it was, I bought it without this. These things from Canon cost about 40-50 bucks. I think you'd be out of your mind to pay that, Like I got this off eBay, free shipping from China, $2, literally. So yeah. I don't have any protection on the front of the lens. A lot of people like to use UV filters on the front of the lens. But the reason why I don't like UV filters is because if it so happens that you drop your camera or some impact with the lens, it hits the UV filter. The UV filter can become stuck on. Now, I said that I didn't purchase it with this. I didn't get this till many years later. I should have gotten it a lot earlier. But I was happy with the UV filter. And then one day, I was just walking around a park. Actually, it was it was Nyora, the South Gippsland town of Nyora. Those of you who know my hike along the South Gippsland line, I was on that. And I went to sort of walk up like a concrete half pipe, and it was a bit wet, and I slipped and I went bang. I was holding my camera and went bang like that. And yeah, impacted the front of my camera, and the UV filter broke. Thankfully, I was able to, unscrew it, but it was difficult to unscrew. So that's why I recommend you get these things, because they give you similar amounts of protection, but they're not going to be so difficult to get off. So yeah, that's that lens. Now, I said that the 10 to 18, which is my usual one. Why did I switch? Why did I buy that second lens? Well, I bought it because for what I was wanting to do, I was constantly finding that I was sort of wanting to zoom out more. And the only way to do that was to get another lens. So yeah, that's what I did. And that was an awesome investment. What's happening with the South Gippsland line video? Well, I spoke to Les today about it, and he says he'll edit it in 10 years. So it's not coming out anytime soon. Look, maybe I'll pick it up as a side project one day, but I've got many of my own projects to finish before that. So, I really loved getting that second lens. The next piece of equipment I got was this. It's a microphone, obviously, but the reason that you might want one of these rather than, look, the camera can just record internally. You've got a microphone here, a microphone there. So why do you want this? Sound quality, much better sound quality, and wind protection as well. So the new lens that I got was this one, the 10 to 18. I actually, when I initially bought the lens, I was intending it to be a secondary lens. I was intending to use this one most of the time, but then this one some of the time. That ended up switching because I just found this one more useful. The one thing I wished that it did, funnily enough, was zoom in further. I thought this stops at 18 millimeters. This starts at 18 millimeters. I don't lose anything between the two lenses. But I'm always finding that it'd be nice to just have a little bit more zoom, just a little bit, so that there's a bit of overlap. How much was the microphone? I think it was $120. You've got to buy this wind protector separately. That was like $30, something like that. So the microphone itself was only $90, and then 30 equals 120 for the microphone. It's a great starting out microphone. And this little piece here is just because I like to have it just up a bit further, because that way, if you sort of see, the microphone is up and out of my way. If it's down further, then it sort of is in my way a bit. And yeah, that's why I tend not to do that. The brand, it is a Rode VideoMic Go. It's basically the cheapest external microphone you can get. And it's a shotgun microphone, what we call a shotgun microphone. So it's good at picking up sound in front of the microphone and a bit behind the microphone, not so much to the sides of the microphone. And actually, for most of the time, that's what you want. You don't want too much sound picked up on the side of things. Yeah. So that just plugs into the side of the camera here. And it doesn't have a battery. It's powered off of the camera. More high-end microphones will have their own built-in battery, and they're higher quality because of the battery. But it's nice to, you know, have power like that. Yeah, and so I also upgraded the flash. The flash on there is only a little bitty one, and it's not very good. Although, having said that, I don't really use the flash that much anymore. Back when I was in high school, I used to do a little bit of party photography for friends, and the flash came in really handy for those situations. The reason why you want an external flash as opposed to the one on the camera is because the light is a lot brighter, first of all, and second of all, it's a lot bigger, and so it doesn't cast as harsh of the shadows, and just looks better. Evening, Patrick Robinson. So let me get the other piece of kit which I've just acquired recently. Yes. Now this is another microphone. Why do I have two microphones? This is what you call a stereo microphone, whereas the other one, this is what you call a mono. So stereo can pick up like left and right, whereas mono can only pick up the one. You won't really get direction in the sound when you're hearing it back, whereas you will with this thing. This is sort of the first piece in my full kit upgrade. So this takes a 9-volt battery, and the sound quality is a lot better. I haven't had a chance to actually use it yet, but yeah, I've heard great things about it, and I obviously looked up a lot of reviews beforehand. I also have a lighting panel that I'm borrowing off Les. It's just like a small LED thing. It's good for when you're trying to film in dark environments. I'll also grab first of all, lighting panel. I've got this bracket here so that I can sort of mount. So this part attaches to my camera. I have the microphone here, and I've got the lighting panel here. And they keep it with one battery taken out to stop it accidentally turning itself on in your bag and draining all of its power. Not fun. Tripod. This is Les's tripod. I'm sort of borrowing it to see if I want to get one for myself. Tripods and I have a love-hate relationship a bit. They're great for getting really stable photos and videos, but they're big, they're bulky, especially when you're hiking. It can be tough to justify the weight and to justify the space. So, I don't know. I didn't take a tripod with me to Queensland. I was going to, but then decided not to at the last minute. Do I wish I took a tripod? Yes and no. Yes and no. So, roughly speaking, how far away can you still get decent, clear images from your camera? That's a good question. I can get reasonably far in. It's and it depends like what you're photographing. I took a good photo of the Malort silos, and at the time of the photo they were probably I don't know, 2Ks away, but they're very big, obviously. So I was able to get a clear photo of that from 2Ks away. If a person was standing 2Ks away, would I be able to get a good photo of them? No way. How far away would I get a good photo of a person? A couple 100 meters maybe? It's really hard to tell. It depends on how big your subject is, really. Station staff seem to hate tripods. Yeah, definitely. If you're taking photos at a train station, don't use a tripod. You just attract attention to yourself, really. And plus, the one time where station staff generally allow tripods, which is when when there's a heritage train coming or something like that, there's just too many people, right? So I tend to avoid using tripods. They're nice, but they have the downsides. Also, if you're going to get a tripod, I would definitely recommend investing in something like this. It's a quick release plate. Yeah, they just make your life a heck of a lot easier, because you don't have to deal with screwing in the tripod every single time you want to. Yeah. Batteries. I have 5 batteries at the moment for my camera. Do you need that many? No. Probably not. Is my answer. Start with 1, and then if you find that you're running out of batteries, or at least getting low on battery with that 1 battery, then time to upgrade, time to get yourself another one. I started off with 1, took me a good couple of years until I felt like I needed some more, and then I got 2 more, so total 3 batteries, and that lasted me a good couple of years. And then just recently for Queensland, I upgraded to 5 batteries. I've never, even on Queensland, I got into my 4th battery, but I'd never got into my 5th. It's all about sort of how often you can charge things. G'day, Tim. Albert says he's seen people use external batteries with their camera that screw onto the base. Any advantages? I mean, yes and no. It really depends on how quickly you can change over batteries and how often you have to do it. I find the battery, like 1 battery, when I'm really like constantly taking photos, it'll last me a good half hour, 40 minutes, even an hour. Yeah, and so that's if I'm constantly taking photos. obviously I'm not constantly taking photos. So on a heritage trip, I'd usually go through maybe 2, maybe 3 batteries. I'll probably get into my 3rd battery. So I don't have to change my batteries over that often, and so I don't feel like there's a need for an external battery pack, something like that. I just make sure that if my battery's running low and I know that we're coming up to a part that's going to be somewhat critical, like say we're about to cross another train and I can see that I'm running low on battery. Well, in anticipation, I'll change over the battery. And so that way, you know, I'm not caught out. Having said that, I've been caught out a number of times where the battery has died right when I didn't want it to. So you learn your lesson. So yeah, look, shooting video, you definitely do drain through your batteries quicker, but when you're taking burst photos as well, that can really drain through your battery as well. I guess, yeah, so I'll start talking a little bit about how do you know when it's time to upgrade and what should you upgrade to? Well, let's say you've started with nothing. Let's say you're going for your very first camera. What should you get? Should you get the most expensive one you can afford? I'd say not. I'd say go for something that's relatively cheap. Somewhere in the sort of, depending on how serious you think you'll be, something around the $300 to $500 mark, or even up to like $1,000 Australian. Probably wouldn't go much more over $1,000. Yeah, even if you can afford it, I wouldn't, because you are beginning and you don't know what you need. I'd just get something general, and then figure it out. And this is the second part of the live streams. How do you figure out what you need next and when you need it? I go through the sort of mental rules in my head whenever I'm thinking about upgrading, and that is that I'll go, how is my current gear limiting me? That's the first rule. I've got to answer that for myself. How is my current gear limiting me? So say with this lens, my current gear is limiting me by not allowing me to zoom out further. You need to answer that for yourself, because if you don't know exactly how your gear doesn't meet your needs, then how is the new stuff going to meet it? You don't know. You'll be wasting your money. Oh yeah, Tim mentioned something about constant autofocus. That reminds me. These Canon type of lenses, there's a special type, and it doesn't really say anywhere, but they're called an STM lens, and that stands for stepper motor. What it essentially means is it's got excellent autofocus during video, and the Canon 70D was the first real Canon camera which had very good video autofocusing. So if you're thinking about your first camera and you think you'll do video, consider the 70D as a used camera. It's got very good autofocus. Do lots of research. Weigh up all your options. Don't just go for the first thing that comes to mind. So you need to tell yourself, how is your current gear limiting you? The second step is, how is the gear that I'm going to upgrade to solve that limitation, and how much is it going to cost me? So with this lens, I think the brand new price on it was somewhere around the $360, $370, something like that, dollar mark. I was like, at the time, I thought, look, I can't quite justify that amount of money. Yes, I can tell how, the new gear will enable me to zoom out further, but I couldn't justify spending the money. That is until I was gifted a gift card for a camera store for my birthday. And that was a $100 gift card. And so now the price was essentially $260. And I also waited for a discount sale to be going on at the camera store. And only then did I purchase the lens. So I think I ended up getting it for about $200 total. And that was good money spent. But yeah, you be careful not to just go out and buy stuff. Think very hard about what you're getting before you get it. And as I said, weigh up all the options. So, like, for example, with that lens, it's like, well, maybe I don't want a Canon lens. Maybe I want a Sigma lens. Are there any Sigma lenses available? What about Tamron? Different lens manufacturers. Why might I want a Sigma lens? Why might I want a Tamron lens? Why might I want a Canon lens? Do your research. Figure it out. The more informed you are, the better. And when you have your gear, when you go buy stuff, consider buying used. Because the benefit of buying used is it's already lost a bit of its value. And you can get some good quality used gear. Don't be afraid of buying used gear. And the big benefit of that is that, let's say down the track you're like, I'm just not using this as much as I thought I would be. Even though I did all my research, I answered all those mental questions about how my gear's limiting me, how the new one's going to solve that limitation, and how much it's worth, and it just didn't really work out for whatever reason. Well, then sell your gear, and you won't lose that much money if it's used. You might even gain some money if you got a good deal. But yes, so I mentioned before that I'm sort of in the middle of a big kit upgrade. I've sort of briefly touched on this in previous live streams, but I'm now almost certain of what I'm getting. I'm almost certain that I'm going to get a Sony A7 Mark III with a 16 to 35mm lens and a 24 to 105mm lens. That, all up, is going to cost me about $6,000. And unfortunately, there's really not that much available in the used market for that sort of thing. So yeah. G'day, Hendrik. I'm good. Yourself? So I'm going to have to buy that new, and it's a bit of a... I've had to think over it a lot because, my sum total of my current kit is probably a little bit over $1,000. So moving from $1,000 to $6,000, it's a big step. And yeah, I've had to think long and hard about it, about my different options, whether there's something intermediate that I could go for that would better satisfy my needs. And everything that I've come to has all come back to, no, nothing else really satisfies what I want. So I guess I can talk about, how is my current gear limiting me? I mean, I've got to answer the question for myself. The first thing, and this is probably the biggest thing, low light. Obviously, with the stuff that I do, urbex and trains, I'm often in very dark situations and wanting to take photos. Those situations, And by dark, I mean like it can often be nighttime, pitch black, middle of the night, and I'm trying to take a photo. Your camera can only go so far on its own. Like you can boost the sensitivity of the camera, but it can only go so far before the picture quality just becomes unusable. Yeah, I've got my camera set up to go to the highest possible value, and there was some shots that I got in Queensland that could have been really good, but just the camera just wasn't up to it in the end. So the Sony is, the camera body itself is really known for its low light, but also the lenses. This lens is an f3.5 to 5.6. What that means is the aperture is reasonably wide when I'm the furthest zoomed out, and when I'm zoomed in the most, it's sort of not that wide open, so it doesn't let in as much light. Similar thing with the other lens, the 10 to 18. Yeah, it just doesn't let in as much light as I'd like it to. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is with the 16 to 35mm lens, which is the equivalent, I'll save you the explanation, but basically just the sensor is bigger, and so the lenses, we've got different numbers. Anyway, that's going to be a very wide aperture, and so it's going to be able to let in a lot of light when I really want it to. The 24 to 105mm lens, which is the other one I'm getting, it's not going to be the best low light lens, because if I want to get the really low light versions, like I've literally got to add another $3,000 or so to my budget, and it's just not in my range at the moment. So I'm getting the 24 to 105 f4, and that's going to be, I'm going to be using that, and I'll again be asking myself the questions of how is my current gear limiting me? How will the upgrade allow me to remove those limitations, and is it worth it? Because no matter how much money you spend, unless, you know, you're a millionaire or something and, you know, you've got cash is, you know, nothing to you, then there's always something else you can spend your money on. For every $1,000 I spend on extra gear, that's $1,000 that I can't spend going on a trip. And consider that also. Getting photos is often a more important endeavor than getting more gear. It's just a hard fact of reality. Am I planning to keep my existing gear or sell it? It's a good question. I plan to keep it. The reason for that is that I've often felt the need for a second camera. As in, like, I'm trying to, say, take photos of a train and I want to film it at the same time. It can be difficult to do with one camera, as you can imagine. I've pretty much just got to constantly switch between the two. So I'm going to be keeping my 70D around, and that's going to be my secondary camera. Although I'm obviously going to be constantly evaluating whether it's going to be worth my while to keep it. You know, maybe I want to sell it. Maybe I do. Maybe my phone works better as a second camera than an actual camera, because, say, I don't want to lug around two cameras because weight is a big consideration. Yeah. Fixed aperture on a zoom is already an upgrade. Yes, absolutely it is. we'll see. I'm always evaluating my own gear and saying, like, how can it be better, etc. James Penny, how are we, Floyd? I'm going to leave here because I'm late, and we'll watch it all soon. All right, then. No worries, mate. Yeah. Am I going to get one of these tripods? I don't know. This is why I'm borrowing it, because I'm going to see whether it's worth a while to upgrade to this sort of tripod. And I've considered upgrading the lighting panel. Do I want to upgrade my lighting panel? There are better lighting panels out there. Is it worth my money? I'd say not. At the moment, it's just not worth it. Yes. Computers. I guess I'll touch on computers and stuff. I've got a MacBook Pro from 2013. It's an old hand-me-down from my dad. Works a treat. Does everything I need it to do. Not worth my money to upgrade. My big screen that's sort of sitting over here, that is an Apple Cinema display from 2008. Again, a hand-me-down. My dad works as a software engineer, and so he bought this screen 10 years ago, and now he's got better screens, and so he gave me this one, and hey, it suits my needs. Again, the money that it would cost me to upgrade is just not worth it for me. But whether it's worth it for you or not, well, that's a question you have to ask. It's all about how much money you have available to spend yourself and where it could be spent otherwise. So yeah, I'll mention my phone. My phone, if you don't have a camera, don't be afraid to use your phone. I'll tell you a story. Back a couple of years ago, I was out taking photos of a train. It was just a standard V-line service, but they'd just come out with a new paint scheme. So I'd gone out to photograph that at Kilmore East. That was all good. Took some nice photos. Came back, and when I changed trains at Southern Cross and had to change again at Flint Street. When I changed trains at Flinders Street, I left my camera on the train. And I didn't realise until it was too late that I'd done that. And so, yeah, that really sucked. But, yeah. And I couldn't afford to... I never found the camera. I lost the main body and this lens. So what I just showed you, they're actually my second version of the same thing. But yeah, so I couldn't afford to upgrade it. I just didn't have the cash. I couldn't afford to buy it again. So while I was saving, it was going to cost me about $700 to replace. Probably a little bit less nowadays, but yeah, I used my phone, and I used the Lightroom app on my phone and switched it to DNG mode. So that's raw photos. And so, yeah, it really taught me how to get the most out of your phone. And I took some awesome photos on my phone, like some that I'm really proud of. In fact, my current desktop background, I always have desktop backgrounds for my own photos, but I think both of them actually, I took them both on my phone. So don't be afraid of your phone. Having said that, it has its limitations. I'll mention that Albert says, a phone attracts a lot less attention at stations. Yes. Bigger cameras attract more attention, for sure. No one ever questioned me with my phone. And I actually sometimes use my phone today if I'm taking photos like in somewhere like the City Loop, where you're not really supposed to take photos. If I turn up with my big camera and pull that out and start taking photos, I'll get pulled up by staff pretty quickly. Take photos with my phone? No one bats an eye. Because no one cares, it's a phone, right? It's amazing. It's really amazing how differently people treat you the bigger your camera is. And one day, I had a bunch of like brackets and stuff, and I was hanging a microphone and 2 lighting panels off of my camera. And so it just looked really big. And I had so many people on that day say, oh geez, your camera must be really high quality, really professional, way more so than usual. And it's like, haha, it's because it's bigger. You assume because it's bigger, it must be better. Not necessarily the case. Don't be afraid of your phone. Your phone can absolutely be a good camera. All modern smartphones can take great photos. Its primary limitation is low light again. So, you know, that's that. And secondary limitation, you can't zoom in or out. You're stuck with the fixed focal length. It's not as bad as you think it is, but it's not great. And there's the old photography saying of zoom with your feet and not the lens. Yes and no. Definitely consider both. Consider what the effect of doing both is. Don't be lazy. But also, don't be mentally lazy as well as don't be physically lazy. As I say, the best camera is the one you have with you, says Hendrik. Yes, absolutely. And that's another great thing about having your phone. I've got the Lightroom app on my phone to this day, and it means that, like, if I'm going out and about, just, you know, anywhere where I'm not planning to take photos, I'm not going to take my camera. But let's say just something along the way happens that, hey, I do want to take photos of it, like, say something happens with the trains or something happens with the trams, and I want to capture that. And I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. Getting photos with the Lightroom app is going to be much better than the default camera app. But even so, yes, having a camera with you at all is better than having none with you. So that's another reason why I say don't discount your phone. And even if you are not like me and you have the camera but you didn't lose it, I would still put in a bit of effort to learn how to properly use your phone as a camera if you're serious about photography. It can be a good thing to learn. What's the best spontaneous photo I've ever taken? Ooh, that's a good question. I guess there's one that I can pull it up. I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to go and take photos of a train this next day. I pulled up at Castlemaine the previous night, which is where the train was leaving from, and it just happened to be there, and I wasn't expecting to take many photos that night. I was using my phone, but I don't think I had my camera then. I'd lost it at that stage. Yeah, I'd just lost it. But yeah, this photo here is a bit of a reflection, but hopefully you sort of see it. yeah, I was just invited to go walk around the trains with the dude in front of the camera. And yeah, I just sort of was walking around and I spontaneously took that photo, and yeah, turned out brilliantly. So, have I printed that? No, I haven't, but I want to. I printed out a bunch of my photos ages ago, and I haven't really printed out any since, and I've gotten way better at my photography since. So I'll print it out at some stage. And my mum, funnily enough, likes my photos. Who would have guessed? But she particularly likes that one, and she is considering. She's a sort of artsy sort of person, and she's considering getting that done in like a really big, huge print that we can hang up on the wall. So if that gets done, that'll be pretty cool. Just a side note, I'm heading into Melbourne next week. Do you recommend anywhere to photograph? Says Tony Hawkins. Depends on what you want to photograph. Train-wise, what's a good place in Melbourne? Stony Point line is a nice one. It's got some cool scenery there. Otherwise, there's just various nice stations that you can take photos at. Just sort of look for ones with lots of plants. And buildings with history. Yeah, let me think. I mean, there's always lots of historic buildings in the CBD. Outside of the CBD, though, I guess you can. The further in towards the city you go, the more historic buildings you'll find. So the inner suburbs, like, I don't know, Brunswick, Carlton, even out St Kilda. Yeah, all those places are readily accessible by tram. So yeah, they're nice. You can find lots of historic stuff everywhere. It's and some stuff it's like the building might not be the most prettiest historic building, but if you know the history, then it can be an interesting one to photograph. For example, like Port Melbourne Station, the Port Melbourne area. That can be interesting to photograph, but only really if you have a bit of an understanding of the history of the area and how much it's changed and where to find stuff. Stony Point Railway is something I definitely recommend. It's really like a diesel. It's an outer suburban branch line, and Melbourne used to have a bunch of outer suburban branch lines, and by that I mean I can name them. Was Stony Point, Mornington, Red Hill, something like that, I think, in that same area. Hillsville, Warburton, Whittlesea, Gembrook. Those are all the outer suburban branch lines, and now the only one that's really left is Stony Point. So again, although Stony Point has nice scenery, yeah, it can be even better once you sort of know its history and where it's come from and all that. Docklands and Federation Square, yeah, Fed Square is undergoing a bit of metro tunnel work at the moment, so perhaps the front end of it won't be as pretty as you'd like, but the rest of it's cool. And Docklands is a nice area. I quite like Docklands. a lot of people don't like Docklands because it's a very windy place and it's slightly desolate at times. It doesn't have that much activity, especially like if you go there middle of a weekday, there's no one around. When I used to go to uni in the city, then say I had, you know, a couple of hours to kill and I didn't have any work to do, I'd go down to Docklands. I reckon it's just a nice little area. The water there is nice. And I don't know how much you like walking, but if you just walk around Docklands and look up the history of Docklands, that's what it used to be and all that, and have a walk around, especially the top end of Docklands, the northern end of Docklands, and even the southern end, like going out on the Victoria Piers. You can find some remains out there if you know what you're looking for. Wikipedia is your best friend. Man, I can't tell you how much good information I've got from Wikipedia over the years. A lot of researchers don't like Wikipedia because of the fact that it can be changed by anyone, and while that's true, it's usually correct. Usually. Yeah, it's probably not the best. You wouldn't cite it as an official source, but if you're just on the train or something and you're just trying to look up the history of some place, Wikipedia is your best friend. Yeah. Are there any remains of the line out through Springvale Cemetery? No, not really. Yeah. Since the Springvale station was dropped into the ground with the level crossing removal, pretty much all remains have been destroyed, but I haven't properly checked out the area myself, so there might be something that I don't know about. Thinking of old railways, though, the Inner Circle line is now basically a rail trail, and it's not too long, so that can be a nice day trip. There's a bit of history there. There's a few old level crossings that are left. Yeah. Even the Outer Circle line, if you know what you're looking for, there's still a bit of stuff in the Outer Circle line, but that's a bigger job and harder to get to than the Inner Circle line. Yeah. Any other views, thoughts, opinion, questions, whatever? No worries, happy to, you said thanks for your advice, no worries, happy to help. I must say, with Queensland, I didn't know that much when I was in Queensland, and I sort of didn't have a lot of time to do much research because I was always doing something. But now that I've come back and I've been looking through my photos and I've been researching all of the stuff, oh man, I've learned so much, and the more I research, the more I want to go back. You should consider a future episode with general photography / photo editing tips. Yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that as a proper video rather than a live stream, I think, because, yeah, it's going to be too difficult to really do on a live stream, or at least for me to do on a live stream. I'd have to learn a bunch about, you know, how to hook up my computer and streaming, and I know it can be done, but I know it's also complicated and I can't really be bothered figuring it out. I'd rather just do it in a proper video and lay it out properly and all that. Hendrik says he likes my video about Brisbane trams. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was a good little thing. We'll see a modern tram tomorrow when I release part 2. I'm going to go on the Gold Coast tram. But I'm happy to, if anyone's got any suggestions for future live stream topics, I'm more than happy to consider them. Yeah, I'll run through. I've got a little list running on my phone of video ideas that I should get around to filming that aren't the sort of regular trip stuff. I want to definitely start making a few videos that aren't just my explorations, be it abandoned or otherwise, because I want to have the videos. The primary purpose is I want to have those sort of trip videos and urbex videos. They're the stuff that makes you stay, and these sort of videos that I'll read out to you in a sec are more so for the what brings people in. But of course, if you're already subscribed, I'm sure you'll enjoy them as well. But video ideas: top 10 railway destinations in Victoria, in Queensland. I probably won't do Queensland just yet because I haven't really explored that much of Queensland. Yes, I went all over the place by train, but haven't been that much other than terminuses and blah, blah, blah. I'm not knowledgeable enough for Queensland yet. Victoria, however, I am, so I'll do that at some stage. Top 10 urbex locations that I've been to. That will be a good one. 5 tips for finding abandoned buildings. I'm sure people will appreciate that. How to get started urbexing. I've had a few people ask me that in the past. How to get started in photography. Maybe that can be a topic for a live stream, but we'll see. Top 5 country towns that I've been to. Another interesting one. How to plan a hiking trip. That probably won't happen until I start planning another hiking trip, but we'll see. How to plan a road trip. Again, until I do another massive road trip, I probably won't do that. How to plan a railway trip. That one I will do. That's going to be the last part of my Queensland series. It's going to be how I planned the Queensland trip and how you can potentially plan a similar trip. QR train reviews, so just having a brief video of what you can expect travelling on the Westlander, the Inlander, Spirit of the Outback, Spirit of Queensland, etc. I think that'll be good. Why I like travelling alone. There's not too much to that, but I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. And the opposite, why I like travelling in a group. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. I'm sure I'll talk about that. Top 5/10 lists are a great idea, plus how to get started walkthroughs as well. Yeah, thanks. Hey, caught you live. How's your day going, sir? Very good, thank you. It's 10 o'clock, so I think I'll be wrapping it up pretty soon. I've been going for an hour, but yeah, I'll stick around for another minute or two, and if anyone's got anything to say, then now's the time to say it. All those videos, I've already got a lot of footage and stuff that I can use, but like for railway destinations, I'd want to go out and film an intro at the railway station, for example. So yeah, and maybe I want to go back to the various destinations that I mentioned and get some more B-roll footage. Yeah, we'll see. Cheers, Hendrik. Thinks all the ideas are good. Any great explores coming up? I really haven't been doing that much urbexing lately, but I do have a few good videos in backlog. They will come out after Queensland. Queensland is going to be running for the next couple of months, and then after that, I'll go back to some urban exploration videos before launching my next trip. Where's my next trip? Don't know yet. I'm going on a personal trip to South Australia this weekend. Well, actually not this weekend, next weekend. I'm not filming that. I'm not. I'm going to be doing a little bit of photography there, but yeah, no, I'm not going to make a video series out of that. But it'll be an opportunity for me to test out a bit of my gear. I'm going in my car, so it'll be a good opportunity to test out sort of how everything fits in my car and gear and how much I want to bring on future trips. Planning the trips is just about as much work goes into planning the trips as goes into actually doing the trip. Still planning on finding some land, or is that plan on hold? I'm not sure what you mean by land. Yeah, I guess I'll just say that having various trips where if you're like me and you like to thoroughly document a lot of your trips, doing smaller trips that aren't as important to you can be really handy for just getting familiar with your gear, getting familiar with how you operate, what things you want to change in the future. I think I heard you say you're hoping to find a farm. Oh, that was Les. That was Les who wants to find a primary school and a farm and live there. His plan is, he hasn't found anything yet, but he is planning on moving to the country at the end of the year. To a farm, yes, but it's not going to be a primary school. But yeah, he's going to be moving there with his girlfriend, so good for him, and I'll stay in the city. In the future, I'd like to live on the edge of the city, say somewhere in the Dandenongs. I love that area. Yeah, I like space to just do stuff. I don't have enough space in my current house. It's a reasonably big house, like it's 2 stories, but I'm living with the rest of my family, and yeah, every room sort of has its use, and there's not really any free space. We don't have a garage. Yeah, I'd definitely like a garage to work on my car, but all that's for another time. Mick, g'day. Thanks for the stream. I'm sure the video tomorrow will be ace. Cheers, mate. All right, well, anyone who's just joined, I'm sorry, but I'm going to end this live stream now because it's gone on for an hour and almost 10 minutes. Said everything that I wanted to say, and next live stream in 2 weeks, and video tomorrow. Actually, I kept saying it's tomorrow. I've changed my upload time to Sunday 8 AM rather than Saturday 8 PM. Just sort of trying it out for a few weeks. The 8 AM time seemed to work a lot better for the last video, but we'll see how well it works for this video. But whatever, you'll see it Sunday morning. All right, cheers for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.